the last passenger of the Jeep. In the bustling streets of Metro Manila, jeepneys are a common mode of transportation, carrying passengers to their destinations. But there's one Jeep that tells a different tale, a tale that has been passed down from generation to generation. It was a rainy evening, and the streets were nearly deserted. Only a few jeepneys were still running, eager to finish their last trips before the night. A young man, tired and eager to get home, boarded one of the last jeepneys leaving the terminal. The ride was ordinary at first, with the usual mix of passengers, some chatting, others staring out into the darkness. But as the jeepney continued its route, the young man noticed something strange. There was one passenger in the back who had boarded after him, someone he didn't recognize. The passenger sat quietly in the corner with their face covered by a dark hood. The air inside the Jeep grew heavier, as if something was amiss. The young man tried to ignore the feeling of unease growing inside him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the strange passenger was watching him. As the jeepney passed by an old cemetery, the man glanced at the figure again. This time, he saw it clearly. The passenger's eyes were wide open, and their face was pale, almost lifeless. The young man's heart raced. He looked around to see if anyone else had noticed, but all the other passengers were silent, their eyes vacant as if they didn't care. He wanted to ask the driver to stop, but his throat felt dry and he couldn't speak. The jeepney continued its route, but now the air felt suffocating. The road was winding, and the headlights barely illuminated the dark, foggy path ahead. Suddenly, the Jeep stopped at an empty, isolated area. The driver looked back at the young man and said, "This is your stop." Confused and shaken, the young man protested, "I didn't tell you to stop here." The driver said nothing, but pointed to the door. Reluctantly, the young man stepped off the Jeep and found himself standing in the middle of nowhere. He turned to look back, but the jeepney had already disappeared into the fog. And then he saw it, the figure of the last passenger standing in the distance, watching him with cold, dead eyes. That's when the young man realized he had just shared a ride